lesson 8. When we get to lesson 8. Okay. The last thing that I explained to you was this question, right? This example rather, where we had reading the file. Now I want to pay attention to this part a little bit more before we continue to the other one. That's this section. After the file has been opened, right? After the file has been opened, what do you do at this point? So we go there. Let me take the code to the board. Okay, right. So hopefully you can read that. Now, what do these lines mean? Actually, I want to explain this. We have a very important line here, the first line. Okay. Now, if I were to write an algorithm for this, if I were to write a pseudocode for this, it's going to be slightly different because this actually combines two things. Now, one is the read command. So if I were to write sudo for this one, it would be like this. The file is open, then we say while, sorry, let's not go there. Let's go to first the read command. So I will say read is meant to read the record. So I'm saying read the student rec from the stud file. Okay, so stud rec from stud file. This is what it means. Now, reading this is only possible if there is a record. Now, if you're going to read the record, you need to know if there is data to read. If not, the program is going to crash, having a runtime error, giving out a runtime error. So what you can do, the best thing you should do is, before you attempt to read, we say while and we put an end of file indicator there. So while not EOF, while not EOF, EOF means end of file, while it's not the end of which file? The stud file. While not end of stud file, do this command. Oops. Do this command. And the next line is to print or output the studrec dot name, n, and studrec dot h. Right. So print or output or display or whatever you want to say, and then we say end while. So this is basically what we have, right? So this line that you have here on the C program, it represents these two, right? That is, on it's first checking for if you have reached the end of file, and if not, it will read the record into memory. So remember, you are reading one record at a time into the main memory, right? So this is basically what I wanted to highlight for you. So why is this important? Because some of you have had the habit when looking at the A-level class, we had some of you would use a repeat until loop to read the file. And even the Cambridge exams have also agreed that it was fine. But in reality, when it comes to many of the languages, including Pascal, C and C++, or even Java and C#, you can't read the file and expect it to just remain quiet when there is no data. It will definitely raise a runtime error, and that means either you have to use the end of file method of identifying it, or you have to use the the exception handling routine, which is not necessary for us at this point. It's a big thing to do. It's not necessary. So the right thing to do is check for end of file. Right. Going on to the questions. Program, create a file. Exercise 8.1. I'm looking at the document. It says create a file to input employee number, name and basic salary as 3 fields. A 4th field named tax should be automatically stored using 5% of basic salary if the salary is over 30,000. So a number of basic things that we need to observe here. Number one is that the data types. So you're not going to use a short integer, you have to use an integer or long integer, which is the same thing. So you can't use a short integer. Right. Ginet, where did you get stuck? Show me what you've done. Okay, move to the top. Let me see the code from the start. I don't see why you should get stuck on this. Name, employee number, salary. Okay. So where are you stuck? Tell me that part. That's the data. You can't read it on a notepad.
Sorry.
You can't read it on notepad. You write another program to read the code. The program that I just explained to you on the board, right? Go to the.
Okay, right.
You write a second program and read it. Okay, you do it now. Let me see. You can, because this is a file of records. You're not supposed to be able to read it on the text file, on a text editor rather. Your code is fine. Right. Okay, you can take off the screen share. Right. Adil. Okay, let's see. Why is the value for salary entered as X when it should be salary?
So X is the value for salary.
Then
And salary is like the net salary, so after deducting the tax.
okay, but I did not expect that, right? I was asking for okay, go back to the top, right to the top. Show me the struct. Now you're saying long for number, okay, but long for salary is not going to be right, because after you deduct taxes you may have decimals. So I actually wanted the tax to be stored, not the final salary. Anyway, go down. It's okay, go down. Right. So then you calculate the net salary by taking less 5%. Yeah, so the rest of it is fine. And then, yes, gain it. Check your read program. Okay, go ahead, please. I like the record structure used by Gainet, line 4 to 7. That is, despite the salary being integer, the tax is float. That's how it should be. Okay. So we go to read the file, and he's used R plus, so you can read and write at the same time. Then we go to read the employee record, EMP rec. Yes, the variable is correct. File is open. Yes, your indenting is not good. Suddenly line 21 onwards has jumped out. Yep. Okay. Is that a real name? 18521? Did you enter that stuff?
No, sir, I entered strings.
Let's go back to the output. Let's see.
Did I say? Should I run
No,
the-
don't clear it. Hold on. Don't clear it. Go back to the editor and show me the previous program as well. Nothing seems to be wrong with this. The only possibility is that you may have edited or attempted to edit the notepad file by typing at least a space or something. Did you do something like that? Did you change anything?
No, sir. I did. It was just open.
Okay. Close.
No, I didn't touch them.
Fine. Go to the folder view where you can see the file. And delete the text file, the data file, yeah. Right, now run the code again for reading.
So do I run it again?
Run the read code,
For reading.
yeah. Error opening file because the file is not there. Okay, go to the append file, run the append code. Okay, now go run the other one or the other program.
Oh.
Yes. Run the append code again. Another entry. Okay, so that means it was corrupt by mistake. You may have attempted to edit that file or hit some space because the file is actually a binary file. It's got a format which is not editable using a text editor. Right, so it works. Right. Good, very good. Now, when we work with the text files, we want to make sure that one of the key things is, not text files, files of records. We have to make sure that we don't change the record structure at all after we have started to enter any record. That is, after, for example, if you enter, let's say, 2 records and you realize that you need to change the size of the name field, don't do that. If you do that, you have to start from the beginning, clear the file, remove the file and start all over again. So this is number 1. Number 2, don't try to open it on the editor and change something and think that everything is fine because you didn't you only put 1 letter in. No, it may seem like a letter, but you're actually making quite a change into the structure, into the file. So the record can't recognize that once you do that. Right, now once you do this, okay, let's start from a scratch, an empty file. The question was, I'll share the whole screen, I think it's better. Create a file to input employee number, name and basic salary. Employee number, name and basic salary. So before I can start creating the structure, creating the file, I have to create the record structure. So what I'll do is I go to the code, I hope that's large enough. So we will say the program file is going to be called createfile.cpp. Okay, right. Now I would like to do a few things, trying to maintain some standards here. I'm going to start by using IOStream as much as possible and avoid the others unless I really have to. Okay, so let's go with the record structure is called what was the question now? Employee file, employee number. So I call that record EMP rec type. I'll just call it like that. And it's my way of indenting that. I like to put the opening bracket like that and then write the next line indented like so. So it's a standard that I've got used to. So I want to have employee number, name, basic salary, the three main fields. So it's character array for employee number, EMP num, and I want to allocate maximum of 6 characters including the enter key. Okay, and we also have the earlier one was okay. Let's have name also as a string and basic salary as I'll allow for integer, but I think float would be better there. So go with character name having 30 characters including the terminator string, the new line termination symbol, and finally let me say float for salary. We don't specify a length. So the structure is almost done. The next thing that I want to do is tax should be automatically taken as 5% of the basic salary if it is over 30,000. So what I'll do is create a float column for tax, or like one of you did, I can say salary comma tax. It's also possible. So I can go with that method. Tax done, and I'm going to call this employee record, or let's just call it data. Okay, it can be called anything. I'm just calling it data. Now I have the record structure. That's done. It's called data. Right. Now I want to open the main program, and I ignore the arguments there. So I will come to declare the file as a pointer to the what's it going to be called, EMP file or EMP data. Okay, done. Now I want to open the file, so I will say EMP data equals to open. Let's call the file emp.dat, and I'm opening it to append and create if it doesn't exist. So the file is now open. I don't need to do the error checking. I'll just skip that step, and we come to the part of entering the data. So like we said, I want to use the iostream command, so I'm going to say std cout and ask the user to enter a prompt to say enter employee number, EMP number, and get the input for data.emp number. Similarly for the name, so I can say cout get enter name in data. Right, so that is, we say data dot name, and similarly cout enter salary. In we say data salary. Okay. Now after this is done, it's a matter of taking this data, this employee data, which is under the variable data, and writing it into the file. So the file is already open. You don't have to open the file, right? When did I open the file for the previous one? Was it in the same location? So even here, I'm opening the file first, then coming to the inputs. You don't have to do that, right? You can do the inputs and then open the file. That's also, it's just fine, okay? But if you're reading, yes, you have to obviously open the file first. Otherwise, you can open the file just before you write it. Before you do all this, there's no need to open. Okay. Right. No, not here. Okay. So we go back and we say, okay, let's write this to the file now. So we say file write, and the data is the record name. Get the size of data, always 1. File name is emp data. Done. Now the values are being written to the file, and we close it by saying close data. Emp data. Okay, done. So this is basically entering one record into the system, right? Let's first see if we can compile it, and we will go create, what's it called? Create file.cpp. Okay. So we go with create file cpp, output file, let's call it create file. Okay, so it seems like there is no error. If I run the code and enter even one data, before I even enter one item, I should see this file being created when the code is run. So let's see if I can get that. Create file. Now the file is created, because at this line 14, I open the file, and if it's not there, I say create it. So I can just double check it up to that point. What's it called? EMP. There you are. So it's showing 0 bytes at the moment, right? 0 bytes at the moment. So let's continue the file, writing into the file. Employee ID A123, Sam, same. Okay. Salary 1000. It's done. No messages. Let's see if there's a change in the file size. It says 44 bytes. Now you have to be, as a software engineer or person working with this level of programs, you have to justify, challenge this. Why is it 44 bytes? So we see, if you go into the record structure, it's 30 and 6 is 36, and 36 and 4 for the salary, that's 40, and another 4 for the tax, that's 44. So that's why we have 44 bytes in our file size. Where is that? 44 bytes. You can't say, yes, it ran, there is no error. Not like that. At this level, you have to be able to challenge even the compiler and say, why is this happening like such and such? Why 44? Now, these are the things which a typical C programmer is concerned about, because you are working with levels of bits and bytes. Okay. Now, just because, okay, I know, I'm pretty confident that it should be correct, but still for all, let's not take it for granted. Now, like I said before, if the record was, if the file was created and the program was run, this structure now has to be maintained. Let's say you made a change in the code that caused a runtime error or something, and then parts of the data got erased or something went wrong. If that's the case, you have to delete the file and start all over again, because otherwise you're going to have a corrupt file and you will be appending into the corrupt file. So that's going to be the problem, like what happened with Guinness. So now I go to let's run it again. We already have a compiled version, so let's run it again. Employee number B123, joke, and that's 1,500. Right. Now at this point you should have 88, and depending on the platform you will have a few variations. So it's 88 for us, that's good. Depending on the platform, the operating system or operating environment, compile options, they specified the correct encoding you have used on the system. So many things that you have to consider, right? It's not about just running it and saying, okay, fine, no errors. Okay. Now, once you have that, now I want to focus on the part of reading it. So let's first look at the next question. Read the employee file from the previous and display all the, oh sorry, I have not done this part. I have not done the tax part. Okay. So I need to do that. Before I write it, now this is a safe thing to do, because I know I'm not going to mess up anything simply because I'm going to introduce something new and no field is going to be added. The field is already there, just because I did not write a valid value into it. Okay, it might have some garbage maybe. Let's see. So I put a condition and say if the data salary if it is over 30,000, then the tax, nope, not like that, data tax equals, I only want the tax amount, so that will be data dot salary into 0.05. Okay. Because I am multiplying, I hope you remember this old rule from the first 2 or 3 lessons. An integer divided by an integer will result, an integer divided by a number will result in an integer, but that's one reason I took float for salary. Okay, so I'm not dividing and multiplying, so it's not a big deal anyway. Yeah, so now when I take the otherwise part, the else part, I think I will also do this without the curly brackets, because it's just one thing to do. Else data tax is 0. So that's the only addition here. I hope it's not going to cause a problem. So we go with compile. Right, create file, employee number A200, Altaf, let's put the number that is 31,000, so you have 5%, 1,800. Okay, now we go to the next part. So this is task 8.1 done. 1 8.2. 8.2 is read the employee file and display all of the fields and records. Okay, so we go to the code. Let's make that file. Let's save the file as read file. Okay. Now, as part of changing it, I would like to start off by preserving this record structure, nothing to change. Integer main, okay, I'm not really using this, let's clear it off. We have employee data open for reading only, and I will need this but not to input, but I'll need the fields. Okay, it's going to be cout, and sorry, that has to change as well, so they go cout. Maybe I would want to have a new line at the end of it. I could have done it all on the same line. Let's just, for the purpose of printing simplicity, let's do it like that. Why have multiple lines? Salary, and I also have the tax, so let's print the tax in. Okay, but the problem is we are just printing. This is not possible. I have to be reading it from the file, so I'll change that to fread and same structure, read the row of data and print it. Okay, oops, I need to close the file. Right, done. Now that's just printing one row, so if this works as expected, I should only see one row of data being printed out. Let's go to read file.cpp. Output file is read file, and okay, we have a bunch of errors. Operator, where is that? Kind of crowded. Int main return 0. Where is the error? Start again. Read file, output file is read file. Okay, check. No match operator equal operand, line number 17. Output. Oops, sorry. That was there. Let's put a new line. The new line is not the problem, it was assigning 0 there. Okay, it's kind of messy, let's just clear it off. Run read file, and there you are. So it's basically getting from the disk, line number 16 is getting from the disk one row of data, and that one row of data is being shown on line 17. So line 16 reads one row of data and line 17 puts it on the screen. Now I want to repeat that for as long as there is data. That's what we did. We put the while condition and say while it's not the end of file. Do that, read and do that. Let's just recompile, compile and print, so we have all of the data, right? So that was 8.2. Tell me.
So in the while conditions, you check the file is empty, you need to put a greater than 0 thing.
Okay, that's a good question. Okay, so it's like a boolean true and false. Okay, So while this means while everything is fine, like if it is equal to 1, that means it's valid. So we put for greater than 0, which also meant the same thing. But here I'm saying while this, which means like saying while true, or means while everything is okay, right? So that option is not really necessary there. This is a way of writing the code, an alternative way of doing it. Yeah, so I had never used this method before with your class, but we do it. We do it when in the real world, right? So it's not a problem. Good question. Okay. Like we say, if answer equals true, we can say if answer. That's it. No need to say if answer equals true, right? It means the same thing. Or if option equals 1, where it's 1 or 0. So if 1 means true. So for true, you can just keep it blank like that. Okay. So that's that. We go to check out question 8.2. What is 8.3? Read, print all the records where salary is greater than 20,000. Now I think that's okay. That's not a problem. It's just one teeny weeny condition coming in. So just to say, after you read the row of data, before you print it, all you say is if that data record salary, if that is more than 20,000, then print it. Otherwise, don't print it. Otherwise, nothing. Just leave it. So we just compile that code, and I'm saving the same file. So only one person had a salary more than 20,000, as you see from the data up here, right? 1,000, 1,500 and 31,000. So only the Altaf's record is there. Okay. Right, that was 8.3. It's done. I hope that's clear. I hope there's not a problem. 8.4. Is there an 8.4? So we go to 8.4. Okay, in addition to the main file, an employee can have several additions to the salary known as allowances. All allowances are stored in a separate file called allowances.dat. It contains the employee number, type of allowance and the amount. Create an algorithm to produce a pay slip for a specific employee using the formula. Okay. Yeah.
So I just like did a bit and I'm having this tiny issue where I'm asking for 3 inputs, but the program only asks me for 2.
Very good. Show me your screen. I like that. Okay, I see it. Right. So, right. Okay. Okay, what's the bug?
So it only asks for 2 inputs while there's 3. So when I do that, it just
Get S is misbehaving on your system, strangely. What will happen if you replace get S with scanf as a string? Yeah, so it was misbehaving on your system, but there's a small problem here. You should have put the ampersand actually for the RAM type, right?
Oh.
All right. Okay. Anyway, since well, you are having stdio, but you should have actually used start using C in and out, and eventually there are more additional functions that you would want to use instead of the old C functions. Yeah. Okay, so Rusanda, did you see what was done just now? Did it seem like a problem?
Yes, sir, yeah,
It's okay. So basically you are opening the file and you are getting that data out, right? Sorry, you're getting it into that system. So I would like to take it one step further. That is, when the employee number is entered, I would like to read the first file and display his name so you know for sure this number is there. And if it is there, then I will want to ask for the allowance details and add it in the file. That will be a good way of doing it, right? I mean, rather than just entering the number and expecting it to write in the file. So try to do it like that. Yeah, like, okay, let me share my document once again. So into the answer, here is going to be my algorithm. I'll just write the algorithm. Okay, input, enter employee number. This is the number for which you are going to add. So we will call this search EMP. Now I will say found is 0 to mean we have not found it, and I will open the employee file. We call it emp .dat. This is sudo, right? This is just sudo. For read. So the mode R, okay. We'll take a file handle. It's called emp file, okay. So emp file is open for reading, right? So this, you put your own C command in here, right? Then we go to the next thing, the search. Okay, let me write the algorithm. Read from emp file to data. Now we know the rule about end of file, so while it's not end of file of emp file, we'll do this, read and see if it's matching. If emp file dot employee number is equal to the search emp, that means you have the match here. We will say found is now 1. Okay, and at this point we will start focusing on the rest of the thing, but I would like to do it like this. I would like to use that end while. So it's going to try reading until you reach end of file or until you found it. So while found is equal to 0, you will continue searching, and once you find it, you come out of that and say if found equals to 1, then we will say output it, display employee data. We'll just call it data. Now this is sudo, so you have to write the actual print command. Okay. Right. So if found is 1, then display the data. Now we can open the other file. We can say allowances equals equals to open allow dot dat allowances file for append. This is pseudo, right? So the a plus mode for this one, and I can say now input. So now the user knows that this is the field, so enter the allowance type. So we call that maybe allowance dot let's call it all data, allowance data type, and input, enter the amount for this allowance, that's all data dot amount, and enter the something else, right? Okay, that's it. Now I have the employee data already, so I'm not going to re-enter it. Now I will say open, the file is open, so I will say write to file to the allowances file, write all data. But I have missed out the employee ID, so I will include that by saying all data dot emp num equals to the search emp, or you could say employee emp file dot emp num. You could do it like that as well. It's the same thing, right? Either it could be this one, or this is what is entered, or the one that you read for that one, that is emp file dot emp num, that one. So write that now to the file, and you can close the file, close all data. Now this seems like a more complex algorithm, but it's actually a more useful one to the user, because the user knows whose employee, whose salary is being entered. So if it's not there, if found is false, I will output a suitable error. No match.